Great, welcome. This is an investment proposition presentation on Airtasker. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about a wide range of topics, which includes, the company's background, the growth prospect of the company, the valuation of Airtasker, the risk factor that investors are facing when investing into the company. And finally, we will conclude everything to suggest whether Airtasker is a worthy investment or not. So now let's take a step back and talk generally about Airtasker itself. So Airtasker was founded back in 2012, a decade ago. It is an online marketplace for local services. It helps connect people and businesses who need work to be done with people and businesses who want to work. The latter, we usually refer to them as taskers. And the basic premise of what the company is trying to achieve here is to be the Etsy for local services. When we think of a customer trying to buy a product online, it's usually quite easy for them to buy the product through an online marketplace, Amazon or Alibaba. But for customers to try to buy a service online, it's quite an onerous task where they have to, take a lot of time figure out whether the professional is reliable or experienced. And that is why Airtasker is here to help bridge the gap for the customers and the taskers to come onto this platform and help them to conduct their businesses in terms of services. Over the past decade, the company has been quite successful growing its business, where it has recently in 2021 went on public, on the Australian Stock Exchange, raising approximately $83 million through the IPO. In terms of the acquisition activity, the company has been quite moderate, where it had acquired two domestic online marketplace, the Taskbox and the Occasional Butler in 2013 and 14. The most recent acquisition in 2021 of Zali is quite a strategic one because it is there to help Airtasker to gain a footing in that region by expanding its business throughout North America. So fundamentally, let's talk about the business model of the company and how it generates revenue on the platform. So all of these stories, all of the business are first started from the customer side of the story. So the customer will post or request a task onto the platform with the task budget, the task description of the task, and then also the time, date, and day of when the task have to be completed. After that, the customer will receive several offers from multiple taskers with different price points. And it is at the customer's discretion to choose a particular tasker for its job. And that will be based on the desired the price point offered by the taskers and also the value proposition that the tasker can bring to the customer. After the tasker have chosen a particular tasker for the job, it will then proceed with the deposit payment onto the Airtasker Pay account. The transaction had not gone through because the tasker have not completed the task, and that's why after the task has been completed by the tasker, customer will approve of the completed task. Only then the transaction will go through. In between the interactions between the customer and the tasker, the tasker will get a percentage fee from the customer side and the tasker side. On the customer side, as of late, only in Australia, Airtasker will charge the customer a fixed band of a percentage fee for the booking fee. with the maximum price paid by customer at $24.90. On the flip side, we have the service fee charged by Airtasker onto the taskers. And that is based on a tiered pricing system where the higher earning taskers this month will be charged at a lower percentage fee relative to, lower earning taskers will be charged at a higher percentage fee. Financially, the company has been quite successful growing its business, where over the past 5 years, the company has registered a gross market volume, which represents the total price paid, the total price booked through the online marketplace, registering a 64% CAGR from 2016 to 2021. And it is forecasted to generate up to more than $200 million in 2022. On this other side of the financials, the revenue also follows the same upward trajectory, where it is forecasted to generate up to more than $30 million in 2022. And one thing I particularly like about Airtasker, especially the co-founder and CEO of the company, Tim Feng, is the management team. This is because over the past year, the company has been acquiring 3 companies, and from those companies, the company CEO, which is Tim Feng, and the company have decided to retain and integrate all of its employees from the acquired businesses into Airtasker. This shows how the company and Tim Feng values human resources and human talent to help improve the online marketplace, so that the customer and tasker experience on that platform can be improved, can be increased, can be streamlined. And this is very important for the company if it wants to stay relevant in the industry moving forward into the future. So now let's move forward. Let's look forward onto the long-term plan of the company, the growth prospect of the company. And the first growth prospect of the company comes from the networking effect. And the economic of this networking effect is that the more taskers joining into this platform will in turn attract more customers to join the platform. This is because the taskers now, there are more supply of taskers joining into the platform that can service all the long tail types of services that cannot be found in the commercial side, especially the types of services like catching a spider, or fetching a drone up on the tree. And this is serious. I'm not joking right here, but this is serious. And this type of long tail services can be provided by taskers, especially in this platform, to customers, which will in turn, those customers that needs this type of services will come to this platform and request the taskers to help address their issues in terms of like catching the spiders, like the long tail services. And this is very valuable to Airtasker. And so that the more taskers joining into this platform, more services can be provided, in turn will then help attract more customers onto this platform. How Airtasker can achieve this economic effect, or the scale of this networking effect, is through aggressive marketing campaign. Specifically, a more targeted marketing campaign or marketing strategy that will help attract and induce or compel those taskers and customers onto this platform to conduct their businesses. And the second growth factor comes from the Airtasker Superstore ecosystem. And the Superstore ecosystem is just all types of platform that Airtasker is providing to both taskers and the customers. We have the traditional business model we've talked about earlier on the slides, like the instant booking. And we have the newly established the Airtasker listing that was just launched in 2021. So the Airtasker listing is just, a subscription-based services provided by the taskers. So before we have the customers initiating the task, but now it is the tasker side initiating the task to customers. And the growth factor comes from establishing more types of platform like Airtasker listing and instant booking on the online marketplace for Airtasker, so that it will help attract more customers and taskers onto this platform to conduct their businesses. And the third growth factor comes directly from the expansion itself, and this is the most important growth factor that Airtasker will be betting on: the global expansion of its businesses. As of late, the company has domestic exposure in Australia and international operations in the United Kingdom and the United States. The total addressable market from these three countries are expected to be more than $600 billion. And all of these countries, the Airtasker only have 0.3% of market penetration, which shows that there are a lot more rooms for the company to capitalize on, to capture all of the growth, all of the market opportunities. The company have the potential to expand beyond those countries, like it currently have exposure or some operations in Ireland, Singapore, and New Zealand, but nothing is too meaningful right there because it has not generated enough scale or enough revenue in those countries. But this is what the company should be betting on, increasing its global exposure in multiple countries to capitalize on the growth of this online marketplace for local services. So now let's put everything into numbers and talk about the valuation here. And like before, I've put more weights on forward-looking valuation, like the discounted cash flow and also the broker's target, but less weights on the backward-looking valuation, like the comparable multiple. And we can see that the intrinsic value lies at 88 cents per share relative to the current share price trading at 76 cents per share, a 16% upside benefit. But I would say that, despite this margin of safety, a 16% margin of safety, it is not really meaningful to investors. With 16%, it is really nothing to investors, because investors are looking forward, are looking at a decade, a long-term view on the company. And based on these metrics, the long-term view, a 16% is not really a good enough cushion to investors if they want to hold onto the company stock. So I would say that the company is fairly valued here. Despite its growth stories, how big the potential is, or how big the potentials are. But putting everything into numbers, the intrinsic value still suggests that the company is fairly valued. So now let's look forward onto the the risk factor that investors are facing when investing into the company. And this is one of the things that is quite important for investors, because like I say, investors have a long-term view, so that there are a lot of uncertainties holding onto Airtasker if the investors decide to invest into the company. And the first risk comes from the competition it faces in this industry. And this is particularly a significant risk to Airtasker, because Airtasker is not just facing just one type of competition, like an industry competition, but it is facing a two-front competition: the horizontal marketplace companies competition and the vertical marketplace competition. And we can see now there are a lot more industries separated from the online marketplace. The general type, the top side of the industry, following all the way down to the vertical marketplace industries, like ride sharing companies or pet services, this type of industries. And Airtasker, as a horizontal marketplace, provides all types of services, but that might not be attractive to customers, because customers might think that a vertical marketplace like ride sharing companies or pet services companies can provide a more targeted or more expertise on their needs based on those services. And this is the intense competition that the company is facing. And the second type of risk that the company is facing, directly linked from the competition, is the low or the negative EBIT margin or low profitability of the company generating over the past few years. And this is especially stark for the company because it has been generating negative profit over the past few years, which is not attractive to investors, because over the past few years the company has been registering a negative free cash flow to investors, which suggests that the company is destroying equity value. And this is not just a firm-specific risk that Airtasker is facing here. It is an industry-wide issue that the whole horizontal marketplace companies are facing. A negative EBIT margin over the past in 2021 and negative profit in 2021, which suggests that although Airtasker is not as attractive to investors, the whole industry is actually not really attractive to investors here. So this is another risk that investors are facing when investing into Airtasker. And the third type of impending risk that investors are facing is the reclassification of independent contractors. And we can see that in the United Kingdom and the United States, but not in Australia, they have imposed basic rights for independent contractors from ride sharing companies like Uber for minimum wages and paid holiday leaves. And this is not attractive to the company, because this will put upward pressure on wage expenses and decrease the already depressed profit margin of the company. And the impending risk here that Airtasker is facing is the potential of regulators trying to expand the scope of the reclassification of independent contractors onto all type of online marketplace. Because as of now, Airtasker treats its taskers as independent contractors, which means that if the effect takes place, it will put upward pressure on the wage expenses and decrease the profit margin of the company, which the company has already or had already registering a negative profit margin in 2021, and this is not attractive to investors. So now let's put everything together and conclude whether the company is worth investing or not. So my final call here is to hold the company, because the numbers suggest that the company is fairly valued, and there are a lot of risk that investors are facing when investing into the company, like the competition that the company is facing, not just one front but two fronts, and also the profitability, the negative profit margin that Airtasker has been delivering to investors, and also the impending risk of reclassification of independent contractors, which will help put upward pressure on the wage expense and decrease or put downward pressure on the already depressed profit margin. I have no doubt that Airtasker and Team Feng have the capacity to expand its business in the future, and then bring, and the company CEO Team Feng bring Airtasker into new heights. But all of the risk here are serious risks to be considered by investors. And the number also suggests the same thing, with only 16% of upside benefit or 16% of margin of safety, it does not provide enough cushion for investors to invest into the company with long-term trajectory or long-term long-term view of the company. And therefore, my final call here is to hold the company, because the company is fairly valued despite the growth factors and also the risk it's facing. And that's it for this presentation. Thank you for listening to me presenting Airtasker, and I hope to see you soon next time. Thank you.